Okay, now I want to show you the step of adding the ties, because I found in one of the tutorials, like, bunching all the ties in the center was just really hard, and it was all lumpy and difficult to deal with. But having the pocket actually gives you like a little escape hatch for your ties. Okay, so you've got your tie or your pocket right here, which is amazing. Now we're going to attach the ties to it and the other side of the fabric. So you're going to put your third piece of fabric face in, okay? And what I recommend is just adding a few pins along the edge. So actually first what I recommend is you need to leave an opening so you can turn your mask inside out and have it being right facing out. So right here and right here. So what I recommend is actually putting like barrier pins to say, no, do not sew in this area. Okay, so like that. These two pins will be my markers to tell me to not sew there. And then I also recommend, until you get really familiar with the rhythm, is putting a pin in each corner so you don't accidentally sew over where your tie needs to go. So let's see. So if we're going to start down here, let's see. Actually, when you get to that corner, that's not going to be an issue, but basically put a few pins before your corners so you can remember that you need to add your ties, because that will be a bummer if you don't have that. So I just, put a few in the corners, and I've got my two barriers to remember to open them. All right, so this first side, we just go straight to the corner. I'm going to take my pin out. I'm lining my fabric up with the end of the foot of the sewing machine, and I'm going to go straight to the corner. All right, so you want to leave, the seam allowance. So I'm lifting up my foot, I'm turning it around. Now before I keep sewing, I've got to add my first tie. So grab one of your pre-sewn ties, find the raw edge, and now here's the trick. Is you snake it up through your pocket hole, grab it from the other side, here it is, you can see it coming out right there, and then you're just going to tuck it and line it up flat next to your needle, because that's like where you want it to be nice and tight. Make sure it's lying flat. Oops. Yeah, just push it flat. There you go. And make sure your fabric is, it's all lined up still, okay? So your first tie is in there now. And then go all the way till you get maybe an inch out to your next corner. Okay, so now I've taken my corner pin out, grab the next one by the unfinished end, snake it up through your pocket. So now you can see that your actual finished ends are out the pocket. They're not all bunched up in the middle of your design. Lift up your foot. Your needle should be in your fabric to hold it. Lift up your foot and then scoot that tie right next to your needle, lining it up. And the reason I do this so that there's a little space before you get to your corner turn is so that your ties aren't caught in the actual corners of your mask. All right, now sew till about 1/4 inch or whatever you're using for your seam allowance. And you might need to just go slow as you go over the ties since you're going through more layers of fabric. Okay, we're going to turn. And here's, nope, that's on the other side actually. Ignore me. Okay, now we can just go straight until we get to our 1/4 seam allowance on the other side. And the nice thing is we're not risking running over our ties because they're actually out the other pocket. Taking out my corner pin. All right. Slow down it once you get to your 1/4 inch seam allowance, turn it around again. All right, grab your third tie, loop through the unfinished end. Okay? And just like you did before, you've lifted up your foot, your needle's still in your machine, you line it up right next to the needle, flatten the fabric down, make sure it's all nice and straight, put your foot down, and then sew to the next corner, maybe an inch out. Okay, this is your final tie. Again, needles in, lift up, thread through your unfinished end, and that last needle in there, if you feel like you can remember that that's where you need to stop, you could take it out, but you could also just leave it in. I've got this tucked in nice and straight next to the needle. Lay down the fabric, lay down your foot, and go all the way to your 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, this is your final turn. Now you can see we've got 1 pin left. That's your marker to remember to stop. I'm going to just put a finger there and stop there and go. Okay. I'm going to just pull this out, and now you're going to turn this inside out, and the awesome thing is you can just grab your ties and it'll help you pull them out. And there you are. And actually, yeah, I would recommend using either the point of a pen or a chopstick or the end of a paintbrush just to poke your corners out, because you'll need those to be as nice and even as you can. And there you have it. This is, you know, the almost final step, but you've just added your ties to your mask.